This is my review of Cynthia Erivo's new book, Simply More. I love the cover. The art style is just amazing. I think Cynthia Erivo is a big inspiration, and even though she's getting a lot of hate online now for her odd behavior and her appearance, I do think we need more celebrities like her. Her book, I'm not too warm on, though I won't call it terrible. It seems like it's somewhat of a memoir and somewhat as like a self-help motivational book. I think she is writing this book and talking through the words to the artsy teenagers like her who are a lot passionate and very misguided and feeling a little confused. Maybe a lot who are trying to navigate the entertainment industry or don't see their place in it. I appreciate what she has to say, even though I don't think it comes across as great as it could, and she's still quite young to be writing a book, so maybe she just doesn't have enough life experiences. But it still was very interesting. Cynthia Erivo, I get the impression, is a very big adrenaline junkie, and she admits this to herself. She loves running triathlons, and she still runs a lot. Like, when she trains, it's 25 miles a week, which is insane. And she doesn't listen to any music, she just focuses on it. So that tells me adrenaline junkie. Kind of explains her personality in a lot of ways from what we've seen in the press interviews. She was born to sing. She was humming at 18 months old, and she sang at 5. I also got the impression she was probably a very talkative kid in class and was difficult for teachers. She called herself rebellious, but I think she just talked back to them a lot and were really a pain in their side. She's a very passionate person who takes up a lot of presence, so I can imagine. Cynthia's mother was a single mom who emigrated from Nigeria, despite protests from her family. Cynthia's mother worked multiple jobs and became a physical therapist. Cynthia's mother was not a typical Nigerian immigrant in terms of the stereotype of encouraging their kids to be successful in something STEM related. Cynthia was encouraged to pursue the arts, and with talent like that, of course it makes sense. She grew up in an immigrant building that was very multicultural. It actually used to be a church. It was rented, a church cut up into a flats, I guess is what it's called. Sorry, I almost said apartments. Her father abandoned her, and he did have some visitation, but he didn't really do much in terms of raising Cynthia and her sister. Cynthia said she doesn't even know his birthday or how old he is or anything about that, other than she got her singing from him because he was a good singer, apparently. The last time she saw him, she was 16 and they were in the underground station or tube station, and they had an argument along with her mom who was there, and he said out loud, "I want nothing to do with the kids," referring to Cynthia and her sister who were present. And then he just left and they never saw him again. She went to a girls' Catholic school and she was treated like music royalty there. Her teachers indulged her talents and gave her very special privileges, which with a voice like that, I don't blame them. But she also wanted to be a surgeon and she was very good at science and math. There's a brief section on her coming into her queerness, and she's aloof with talking about it in terms of how her family feels, but I get the impression her mom and sister don't even fully accept it now, which is very surprising. Cynthia studied music psychology in university. She did mention she did want to quit music altogether at 18, and her mother encouraged her to pick it up again. I'm not sure what happened at that time that demotivated her. And during university, she did backing vocals in a nightclub. She was advised to go to RADA, which she doesn't have the nicest things to say about, though she did enjoy a good amount of her time there, and she's the vice president, so I guess that turned out well. She said being an actress she thought was not in her career, but honestly, I'm not sure I believe that. I think she was told to pursue it even prior to someone bringing RADA to her attention. But she was aware of what RADA was, and she said, it's the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, and anything with royal is not appropriate for a Black woman, is what she thought. But I do think she secretly wanted to go there all along. So she applied kind of on a whim, and she got in. She doesn't have a lot of nice things to say about RADA, especially their lack of racial diversity. And she was aware of this even before she entered. She had a class of 34, there were 4 Black students and she was one of them. And there was a lot of racist behavior directed at her. The only roles she got were the angry Black woman stereotypes. She did at this time admit she needed a lot of emotional support. I think she was depressed for some other reasons she wasn't disclosing, and I think that affected her. But the racism she faced at RADA was placed alongside the classism there. It speaks to a larger issue of the arts only being for the elite and gatekeeping. She needed financial aid, and she asked for some time off to do a music gig that would have paid her tuition, but she was denied but a white boy was allowed that time off. She had to work late nights to make ends meet, and she fell asleep during class. And she felt she was being punished for not being as active as she should because she had to make a living by getting small roles. However, she did manage to land an agent before graduation, so it did work out for her pretty well. Later, that advisor who denied her time off reached out to Cynthia after Cynthia trashed her time at RADA on TV. That advisor emailed Cynthia saying that Cynthia misremembered the situation. She was denied the time off because that advisor believed Cynthia just wasn't committed enough, and taking time off would only worsen that lack of commitment. Cynthia was very offended by this email. There was also some excuse about, oh, you needed to stay for the training to get better jobs down the line. Basically, it was blaming Cynthia. Cynthia wrote back saying she wasn't trying to ditch her studies because she wasn't committed. She just really needed the money to pay for the tuition to stay. So her time at RADA felt very isolated. She didn't have many friends, but she had one friend who asked her to practice a piece with him while he played the piano, and it was the score of Wicked. She didn't know what it was at the time. So I truly think she went hard for the part of Elphaba just to get back at RADA. And I think that's a good motivation. But the racism only continued to escalate. In the final showcase, 2 girls singing a main number got sick. So Cynthia was asked to sing behind the curtain and the girls would lip sync to her. That's whitewashing, and that is ridiculous. So Cynthia, I loved her line about this situation because she said, the only time anyone is gonna lip sync to me is on RuPaul's Drag Race, and as RuPaul says, don't fuck it up. That's awesome. She actually saw Wicked for the first time on her 25th birthday, and by then she already knew the score. Cynthia really empathized with the character of Elphaba, especially the part about having a bad relationship with their fathers. And Elphaba's experience at Shiz mirrored Cynthia's experience at drama school. She said these experiences of isolation played into her performing the scene at the Ozdust Ballroom, which is actually one of my favorite scenes in Wicked. Her big break was in The Color Purple, which would become the big revival on Broadway that would lead to the movie. But at the time, it started as a small production in London, which just happened to be reviewed by someone from the New York Times. She got a Grammy and a Tony, and she, I think, is gonna get to EGOT status one day. She got an audition for Wicked after meeting John M. Chu in person, and he liked how she understood the character. She says her and Ariana still text each other every day. There were rumors of them having a sapphic relationship. I think Ariana just needed a lot of support as she was going through her divorce. Apparently, the flight scenes in Wicked were very hard to film, and the harness Cynthia was in caused friction and chafed her skin off. And she kept landing wrong and getting bruised. She went through a lot of bad managers and ones who tried to be controlling. Though I think with one manager who parted ways, it was more her fault, and she kind of owns up to it, but not really. She talked about one scene where she admitted she went off on a manager and she screamed so loud and was so angry she blacked out. That manager sent a resignation email. The resignation email said Cynthia was being cold and lashed out for no reason, humiliating both of them. Cynthia admitted she agreed to the accusation in the email a little bit. Her explanation of why was very sorry, not sorry. The reasons she said she went off on that manager in a mostly inappropriate manner was a little bit like mental gymnastics. I think what was really going on was the manager wanting to part ways or criticizing her just triggered her bad memories and abandonment from her father. She said she felt like she was being abandoned like her father, so when the manager wanted to leave so abruptly. The writer's strike came right as the last 12 days of filming for both movies happened, and the final bits of Wicked were stalled 148 days later. And when they started to resume filming, she got sick. I'm not sure with fatigue or stress or what reason. I think she was just very tired and stressed. A really lovely moment in the book is how Mattel gave her final approval on the Elphaba Barbie, and she made sure that the doll maintained the Afro features, because previous Black Barbie dolls still had too much European features, though she doesn't mention the porn scandal, which the URL on the boxes was for a porn site. She also subtly admits she isn't the most social because she doesn't like being around people, and I think when she is around big teams for a project, she blames them a lot when I think she gets very anxious. But overall, it was a very interesting book, so let me know what you think.